What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Church Conversations, and glad you're joining us today. We've got a great conversation, some great things going on. And first off, it's Giving Tuesday, and so I want to say thank you to everyone who has given to Free Church Media, who has supported, who has shared, simply by letting other pastors and churches know that they have a place where they can go and get free sermon series, graphics, videos, bumper countdowns, all that. Man, it's been an amazing year. And so I just want to say thank you. And because it's Giving Tuesday, we want to give back because generosity is at the heart of who we are. And it's why Free Church Media exists, because we want to give back to you. We want to give to churches. We want to support pastors and leaders. And so today what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask you to share if you're joining this. And we are going, if you share this video, whether you're on Facebook or YouTube, we are going to draw a winner later today or tomorrow. We're just going to give $50 because we just want to say thank you. We want to give back on Giving Tuesday because as Christians, that's what we do. Is we are called to give and to be generous. So I want to say thank you. I want to also say thank you to Jordan out in San Jose for sending some sweet merch. She sent some hoodies and some stickers. Already got the stickers on my iPad. Wearing the shirt today, so big shout out to Jordan for sending merch. Always need some new shirts. I've realized after doing this show so much, I feel like I run out of stuff to wear. I'm like, I wore this last time. But again, I want to say thank you to Jordan for doing that, for giving, for watching. Make sure you like and share. And today we've got a good friend, actually a great friend, one of my best friends over the last 10 years. We actually met when I came back from college, and we were in sales together and learning the ropes. And he's an amazing man, leader, Christian. He's got a great company that he's running, and we've been talking and just processing on, even with churches and online presence and some of the things. And so I wanted to share this conversation with you, and I hope that you enjoy it. And let us know if you have any questions in. So without further ado, let's go ahead and bring Harold on. My man.
What's up, man? How's it going?
I'm good because you're on here. And if nothing else, I get to hang out with you and we get to have some intense conversations. Just to preface everyone, we are good friends. And so we get intense. We are two intense human beings. Actually, Harold's probably more intense than me. And he's got a crazier background, and you're honestly, I want to say this too, just as a friend, but I want to honor you and say that you're probably one of the most driven, committed, faithful people that I've ever met, and your faithfulness to your church and to your family and to, just to even God's, speaking and voice in your life. I just want to say thank you because you're always challenging me to go bigger, to go better, to think bigger. And I'm excited to have you on. I'm excited to what God is doing through your company and through you, and that we get to kind of do this together. Finally, we've been talking about this for, we've been like
3 or 4 years. Yeah, at least 3 or 4 years.
Just it's crazy, and so I'm excited to talk. So today we're going to talk about online presence, and we're just going to jump right in. And my first question is simply this: is why do you think a lot of churches don't invest as much time, money, resources into making sure that their online presence is actually there? I know sometimes it can seem complicated, but kind of maybe talk through that as we kind of kick this off.
Well, I think it's 3 things off the top of my head. One is I think a lot of different pastors might think that the time and the money that would need to go into that is too much on both fronts, which now is really not the case anymore. The second thing I would say is maybe just a lack of knowledge. It might be to where they don't understand it, and maybe they went to Bible school in my hometown here in Tulsa at Rhema or something 20, 30 years ago, like my pastor. Yeah. And so like maybe it's just one of those things that they don't fully understand it or comprehend it, but the thing is once you get that knowledge and you see what's possible, because the more knowledge that you get, the more you can start to see opportunity and things like that. So I think a lack of knowledge is a really big part of it. And I think a third thing is, maybe they've hired a young person to do all of their stuff online, and they're entrusting everything to that young person and hoping and saying, well, you're a millennial, or you're even younger than that. So you understand all this stuff, just run with it. That happens quite a bit, which for somebody like me, that's okay up to an extent, but this is like it's the most important job in the world, reaching the world, strong local church. But then on the fourth side of it, I would say is that I think that if people really even knew like how much it would generate, not understanding just how much it could generate for your church in terms of traffic, in terms of reach. I think that's a big part. I think people see, and this goes into the fourth thing as well. I don't think people trust the modern day marketer anymore. When most people think of marketing companies and marketers, there are literally marketers popping up every day. People are paying $2,500 for courses, and man, they're getting out and they're like, hey, my mentor's driven $50 million in this niche. And so, it's the age where nobody trusts a marketer. People aren't big on a lot of the old school pastors that are pretty established aren't as big on the public figure deal. They don't like it. They don't like the taste of it. And that's kind of my vibe too, a little bit, that's my that's my pastor's vibe. That's why I love him.
Yeah. And I think that, and I've said this before, but I think too, as we've been processing, I really feel like, the truth is that the online presence being, whether it's your website, your social media, the reviews, all those things, SEO, and it does seem overwhelming, but you can tackle it pretty easily. But that is, for me, I really believe that's your first impression. That's how people they're checking. They're gonna see a Facebook post, and that's why it's important to tell, as a church, to tell your students, to tell your people to share the Facebook, share the YouTube, share those, because that's reaching people. And so the people watching your social media, and they're going to your website, and they're whether they're searching, and then eventually it's like that's leading to people coming into even to your front door. And I think even more importantly, like focusing on the geographic, where people locally can find you is just as important as trying to get a bunch of views on Facebook. But the reality is you're trying to engage and get people in your doors. So why don't you talk about some things, just some common things, mistakes, or just, obviously, Harold, your company works with mostly companies. You're transitioning into, we're trying to focus more on churches because we really want to help churches reach people. So kind of talk about that, the heart behind that.
Yeah. So I want to start responding to that a little bit by talking about like my background, right? Like I've worked all over the world. I've worked with governments, local governments all around the country, mega auto dealers, hospitals, banks. I've got to help build two of the fastest growing companies in the United States in two different industries. And so, like my background is way more business, but there are 3 years of my life where I got to work with the underground church in some of the most dangerous countries in the world. And then Bible schools and closed nations, different things like that. So I understand both sides really well. But on growing things and on the marketing side, the online stuff, it's been strictly companies. And, what I've found now, we work with nationwide e-com companies. We work with nationwide, just companies as a whole that provide different types of services. And then we also work with a ton of local businesses. So, when you talk about church online, especially right now, on every single channel, in every single category, there are what we would call sheep everywhere, And so the importance of first impressions, I think a lot of us know that to an extent, but the truth is like what you guys are providing. You guys are providing, free church media to all these churches. And so now with what you guys are providing to, like the software and the strategy that we provide, is that you can have a united branded approach and a united front everywhere online. And you can have the same brand. It's easy. I mean, most people are probably focusing on Facebook, Instagram.
Yeah, probably. Right? I'd probably say those two. Probably Facebook, because that's where, if you're, that's where a lot of people are.
Okay, so for us, what we would say is just to own your own name on the first page of Google, there is a list of things that you have to do just to own your own name on the first page of Google. And Facebook is great for awareness. It's cheap to reach people, which we do need to talk about that. But, I think one of the big things is a lot of times people will hear about you, and then later on, a lot of times they're gonna Google you too. So if they go to Google, just like even having it to where if somebody Googles your name that you pop up, correctly. And not only that, not just popping up at the Google My Business on the first page of Google, but owning every single name on the first page of Google is also crucial. And people miss out on traffic for that. So to do that, there are hundreds of different sites that you actually have to be on, and there's an easy way to fix that. You have to be on multiple social media channels. Like LinkedIn, everybody wants business guys in their church. But if pastors started putting out content for just business guys on a weekly basis, maybe once a week, it's pretty easy to grow your LinkedIn by, I'd say, 25. I mean, you can invite 100 people to like your LinkedIn page that you're friends with every single month. 100 people. Most people don't know that. And so LinkedIn is a huge deal because you have people living out everyday Christianity on a daily basis out there fighting, and those people are the ones that, finance, the next church and raising people up and sending them off. And so LinkedIn is a huge deal, but it's also one of those sites that I'm talking about that's crucial to be consistent on so that you own your own name on the first page of Google,
Wow.
And what I see with churches right now is they're sporadic, they focus on different things at different times, depending upon what catches their attention. But for us, what we realized that we could do for churches is that we could make sure that at all times their entire online presence is 100% immaculate for a pretty cost-effective amount on a monthly basis. And then we can do, what's called online reputation management, where we monitor if somebody says their name anywhere online, and then we can address it. If they're getting tagged on things that they shouldn't be tagged on, man, we can immediately go in and remove that. And it's not just having sporadic Google reviews; it's having consistent growth on every single channel at all times, starting now until as long as your church is up and running. And so, I think a big thing that we've been seeing recently is that when churches see how easy it's become to actually, protect your online reputation management everywhere online, what ends up happening is they transition out of that to where like, okay, what's next? And from that point, once that online foundation is set, there's so many different incredible things that you can do to reach people. So one thing is a big thing for us is educating people on how Nike and Adidas do what they do to one another. I mean, they see everything, and there's nothing that happens that they don't know. So then we start looking into monitoring different types of churches that are emulate the type of church you feel like God's called you to be, the churches that resonate with you. There's a way to monitor every single thing that somebody else does online on every single channel in terms of ads. And so once you start seeing what other churches are doing as well, that are doing what you want to do, then you get to a point to where you can figure out how anybody's doing anything, and then it from there, it just comes down to like building those systems. And I'm talking about from the company level, we do this all the time. So for churches, it's just coming in and building those systems and strategies in throughout your church. And then what happens is online, you just start to go like this. You start making decisions differently internally based on these things. The messages that you preach and how you get them to all the people that you want to reach, like your entire strategy changes once you have all this knowledge.
Yeah. And I think, for me, and this is what I love, Harold is just, you're constantly learning, but the LinkedIn thing, I remember when you first explained that to me and I was just like, why? That is where all your real estate agents and your business people and their networking and they're trying to get their business out. It's like that is like, I almost felt like the first time you said that, I was like, duh, like, why wouldn't I, why wouldn't we think about that? But I want people to hear this is that like our, even Harold's heart is we want to help churches, life-giving churches, reach people online in their areas, people that are looking for a good church. Like we want to help them. We want to help you, like people find you and help your church, with the reviews. Why wouldn't, your the people in your church to leave some great reviews? I mean, we all go on Yelp or Google in a restaurant. Like people do the same thing with churches, and that stuff matters. And in the heart behind all of this is still like we have something that people need. And we want to help you not just reach people online per se for them watching a video on Sunday morning or whatever, but like getting them to engage and then eventually get them to come into the front doors of your church, because all of this is so important. So why don't let's just kind of shift this a little bit and talk about like some, obviously, there's some things that you get that you offer as far as that can help really take care of a lot of these things, and it's really affordable and it makes sense. And we'll drop a link afterwards where you can contact Harold and ask some questions and find out more about what they're doing. But talk about some simple things. We've talked about Google and how they really want to help, especially nonprofits with grants and stuff. Kind of maybe give some people just some hope. 'Cause I think sometimes people just go, even after hearing all this, they go, man, there's so much. Like, how am I going to do this? Like, give us just a simple starting point.
Okay, so let me tell it to you this way. There are 7 different categories that cover every single aspect of your online presence, right? We come in and we clean all that up for, and I got to be careful a little bit, but like very cost-effective amount. We come in immediately, start cleaning up on hundreds of sites. But then we also start educating the churches. So a lot of times these churches, they might have 1 or 2 people. That's really all we need. And so we immediately start cleaning up 5 of the 7 categories. One of the big categories, of course, is your website. And a lot of people are getting these templated websites and they're not being maintained according to Google standards. We'll show you if your website's being maintained for Google at all, if at all, But then we have the ability to come in and clean that up really easily as well. And then there are one of those categories is ads, which is a big deal. So then you're looking at Facebook ads and you're looking at Google ads, right? This is a bombshell if you don't know this, but you can reach up to 6,000 people a day on Facebook for $1. You could reach up to, same with Instagram. You can probably reach up to around 6,000 people a day with Instagram for $1. And to me, it's like, if you could get up and preach the gospel in front of 6,000 people on a daily basis for $1, or 12,000 people for $2, would you do it? Yeah, absolutely. You would take that speaking engagement every single time. So those are really simple things. On Google, you can run ads for as little as $2 a day. But the other thing is you can also get grants for up to $10,000 a month for Google. Now, there are guidelines and there are different things that you have to do to be able to maintain that. There are things you can do and things that you can't do. But imagine this: there's traffic, there's a river, and it's just flowing. And you find out that you can go in and tap into that river and you can start siphoning off, some of that volume to you. Yep. That's what Google is, man. That's what Facebook is as well. You can see what people are responding to. The other thing, and this is a big one for everyone who doesn't know it, go to your Facebook page and go to Insights, and you can follow every single other church or ministry from one place on Facebook Insights. And you can monitor from one place every single post they do throughout the week. You can see from one place how many posts they're doing, how many people are engaging. And then when one of those churches sees more of a response than everyone else, you can go in and you can click on that and you can look at the specific posts that's getting more engagement than the rest of their posts. So that's a huge deal, because the biggest thing that I think we all know is if somebody is trying to lead people but nobody's responding, kind of figuring out what people respond to is crucial, because then you can find people's pain points. You can find what people are looking for right now. Like if you look up inspiration and a hope, if you target those on Facebook and Instagram right now, you're going to get a ton of traffic, and people are going to start following your pages. And it's $1. It's $1 a day. Like budget $60 a month, and now all of a sudden both of your pages are growing. So these 7 different categories are really, really simple. One of them is social. That's just consistently posting throughout the week. We had a client that's actually down here downtown, does major events for hospitals and wealthy donors and things like that. And man, they stopped posting on their LinkedIn for 2 or 3 weeks. And so they fell off of the first page of Google for their LinkedIn because they weren't consistent. Same thing with Twitter. Wow. Everybody right now is using Twitter or Parler. And they're going to, they're going to Twitter to see immediate news. In the beginning, it doesn't even matter if you have followers on Twitter. It just matters that you post consistently, because that's going to show up on the first page of Google.
Wow.
And you don't want to share it from Instagram because it's going to be a link. You want, if somebody goes to your page, for that to be a picture or a video that fits perfectly within. So for us, like if churches want to send us their content, we'll take care of that on a monthly basis. We'll work with the church, we'll work with the team, we'll get all that content, and we'll make sure that it goes out to all these social channels that are crucial for your online presence. So yeah, like a lot of times we end up meeting with pastors, and two wonderful things happen. One, they see how easy it is, and quickly we can start cleaning all their stuff up. We get with their team, we get a system going. But two, there's some stuff that we reserve specifically for the people we work with. Same thing with the companies, to where we start doing a continual, ongoing education for you, so that you understand everything online. And the people that are understanding these, I'll just tell you, like even here in Tulsa, man, the top companies are ran by guys who started building their companies decades ago. They're in their 70s and they understand everything online. So when we work with a pastor or a business owner, we do ongoing education on a level where they can understand it. And what ends up happening is their gifting and their skill set and their knowledge and all of those things, now all of a sudden they get like a vehicle, and they see what's possible, and they just go off. They have the ability to just go off.
Well, I think that's like my biggest thing too, is with you is you're committed to, like, we want to educate people, and there's some things that it's like, yeah, let's, like, invest the time, the money, the ads, like some of the things, the software, but there are things that people can do that you can educate them, or like, hey, we'll at least point you in the right direction. It's like, even with the Google grants, like if you have your church's 501c3, your EIN number, and you go to just Google grants or Google nonprofits, the whole process is super simple. Like it's not that hard. It takes maybe a few days to process, and then they'll work with a company called TechSoup, and then you can get your Google grants. You can get G Suite for free. They've got discounts for softwares, for program, for Adobe. I mean, it's like computers, like all that stuff. And so I think that's the other biggest thing is this is not just about, like, we want to help educate and equip churches so that they can continue to reach people, and that they're not just dependent on some company or marketing company that you're having to pay thousands of dollars, which they won't with you. But talk about some the importance of, well, let's just get you and me, let's talk about it. Like, I had this question is I want you to respond to this, but like, and we've kind of talked about this, but I wonder, you have the amount of money that companies spend on marketing. Most companies are going to spend between 5 and 10% on marketing at some level. And I just wonder if churches as a whole, if we started maybe investing a little bit more in that, like, because you got to think is companies they're spending money to make money, and we're, in theory, we should be spending the money and the investment to reach people. And I wonder if more churches and pastors understood that, what would we see online, and even people coming to church? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, there's multiple things here. There's three things. Number one, like, we're talking about the gospel, right? We're talking about, if I talk to a pastor, I'm like, hey, do you want to reach 1 million people this year with the message of Jesus Christ? Because it's way easier than you think, Number two, a big thing, and you said this, is for us, we'll go in to meet with people, like, and I'm talking about the corporate world. We'll go in to meet with people, and people are hitting up for $2,500, $5,000, $7,500, $10,000, and the majority of their ad spend isn't even going to what they're paying for. They don't even know. They don't even know what they're spending on ads, and they don't even know what the company is pocketing. And a lot of times people are scared to ask that question. So for us, it's really, really important that you own your own ad accounts. And it's really important that you own your own Facebook account, Google account, because what ends up happening is you end up getting credit with Google and Facebook. So eventually they're calling you and they're doing calls. Like, I've got clients, and I manage it, but I've got clients spend so much money on an annual basis that we have like VIP support. And our rep, he can't tell us who it is, but he's like, I also work with one of the top 5 shoe companies in America. So we're getting reps like that, and they're helping us
Wow.
look at all of our data and make really, really great decisions with reaching people and working on quantifying every single thing we do. So these churches, it is absolutely crucial that you work with somebody that educates you, and that you can separate the fee and the ad spend. Like, that's a huge deal.
Yeah.
But then once we do that, so we do this thing called a foundation package. Once you take care of all of that, it's off to the races for these churches. These pastors, they start to see, wait a second, I can reach that many people for this. And I'm
Yep.
like, yeah, of course. And what ends up happening is you start to find out how much money you need to spend to get X amount of visitors. You can start tracking that. You can turn that up when you can handle it, and you can turn it down when you can't. I mean, I just met with an organization that they're like, man, just turn it off. Like, we can't handle it. Now we're coming up with a strategy to build, to find like people that fit their culture and their team, and they're spending money on
Yep.
that so they can come back and grow again. You know what I'm saying? So I think getting to the point to where you find out how much it costs to gain followers, to grow, once you get that data, then as a leader and a decision maker, I'll tell you what one mega pastor told me. I basically told him this. I was like, okay, if you see anybody that goes viral, I could show you how they did it. I can show you exactly how they did it. And he's like, well, why wouldn't I do that? What? And I told him about how much it would cost, everything else. I even told him that I would walk his team through setting it up themselves, and it would probably take them about 20 minutes. So they paid me nothing. We're talking about the kingdom. So like, they paid me nothing on this. And, he's like, why are we not doing this? Why are we not doing more of this? He's like, the goal of my life is to reach as many people as I can with the message of Jesus Christ. Like, that's all I care about. So the thing is if we got churches all over the country spending $1 or $2 a day, if you want to have people come to your church and do, a model to where like they can book ahead of time. I mean, I know a lot of people are going to that. Like, all of that stuff is not hard and that's not difficult, and for me, I think the most important thing that I care about, I like, for churches, you and I both know we do special deals for churches because it's more about the kingdom.
Yep.
But I'll tell you right now, the most important thing that I've found is the combination of, how I've seen churches grow all over the world into movements of millions and getting to work with their leaders, combined with educating these churches and these pastors. Because once they get this knowledge, then all of a sudden there's like this whole different world. It injects them with hope.
Yeah.
Because they see that there's this whole other world that nobody is willing to be transparent and vulnerable with, and just give them the info.
Yep.
Everybody's trying to make a living off of them. Everybody's working on a personal brand, and that's not you asked me for a personal brand picture for like 2 weeks. And I was like, I don't, I don't have one. But anyway, yeah, a lot of these people that are reaching out to these pastors are trying to focus on building, a personal brand in that realm. And for me, like, it's just, I don't care. I don't care about that. I just want to help these pastors and help these churches.
Well, and I'll say this, and this is what I love, is that I think a lot of times there isn't a strategy altogether. It's like, for instance, when it comes to, normal church, you have greeters, and there's a parking lot, and there's, you want people to get into growth track, or you want them to sign up for something, and there's a process to get people engaged, when they come to your church. But the problem is with marketing and online stuff, even with marketing companies, it's usually like, hey, we'll run some ads for you, or we'll do this, or we'll do that. But there's no strategy. There's not, like, because the truth is that if your social media doesn't match up with your church, and it doesn't match up with your website, or your website's great,
like the fonts are different on all these different channels because they use these different I mean, there's just so many different things like this.
And that's what I love. That's what I love about what you're doing, is that it's okay. It's thinking about, okay, first let's get the website good. Let's and just so everybody knows, you can email Harold. I dropped it in the comments, but they will run a free market report, and it'll tell you how your social media is doing, how your website speed, how it's doing, what problems you have. It'll do what else?
Market, basically
market research review, all that
entire
stuff.
Online presence. It's a market research report. It'll pull your entire online presence, and it'll show you everything that's not happening that should be happening for your presence online.
And
You
that's the thing
know,
is like, you're talking about 7 categories. Well, like that's what they don't just do. They're not trying to work on one thing. It's not just, okay, let's focus on SEO. It's well, you got to get your SEO right. You got to get your Google ads running. You got to get your social media consistent. You got to get your website that is strong. Like all those things together, just like a good church, it's when you have, you've got good volunteers, and you've got a nice, you've got a great worship service, you got great communication. It all works together, and that's I think that's what's that for me is kind of opened my eyes to go, oh wow, there's all these things matter, and if one's off, it affects everything.
yeah.
And what do you? So let me ask you this. Let me ask you this: as far as the most important, like, what's the starting point? Because I know a lot of churches, the budgets are tight, and I get that. But even on a simple level, like where could someone start? Like, hey, say you can't, you don't have the budget right now to you do all this stuff. Where can someone start? Like, just, hey, I want to encourage you, like, just at least start right here.
I know a little bit more detail about some of the stuff for us. What specifically do you mean?
Well, I mean, even like, like people think like the Google Ads thing or SEO or, I feel like even website, I feel like most people don't even they don't even really, I feel like most churches, their website's kind of a back door. Like they don't
Or
even,
it's like a template. Yeah, it's some template where they can
or
go in
they,
and they can do it all themselves.
or they don't even really like consider it. Like they don't even think like, they don't, maybe even the analytics of what people are,
Right.
clicking on and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Like keep educating, like give us some freebies on like, hey, like at least right now, here's what you can do, until you get the budget together, all that stuff. Like here's some simple things you need to check on.
Yeah. So, the market research report reveals your website and all the things that, I mean, literally show you every single change on mobile and on desktop that aren't being on your website. So we give you all that. And for churches, we do that for free. Like normally it costs money. And so it'll give you all of those changes. But a lot of times those platforms are outdated. But that's number one, is like finding out all the things that are happening currently on your website that Google is flagging on a monthly basis that you don't know anything about. I mean, for us, every time something comes out new on any channel that affects you, we educate you. Like we make sure you know about it. And it's as quick as an email. Like, hey, just FYI, this shift happened and we just wanted to tell you about it. So you get to a point to where, like right now, I guarantee you pastors that would ever hear something like this, they are freaking out. They're quietly nervous about all the things they don't know. Well, with us, that'll never happen again. That'll never happen again. The other thing is, if they're like, well, how did this company do this? We'll go and look it up, and then we'll show you exactly how a company is doing something that they're doing. We'll show you the technology on how anybody is doing anything that they're doing in the strategy, so that you at least have that knowledge, so you could give it to your team and execute it for yourself, and that'll save you, $2,500, $3,000. That market research, and then being able to just use some people on your team. But great. You and I both know the biggest thing is we offer a foundation package that is incredibly discounted for churches that will clean up your entire online presence. And a lot of times we talk to pastors and it shocks them about how much we charge. And then we also give you a ton of knowledge on things that you can do.
By shock, he means it's not expensive. That's what he's saying.
Yeah, it's not expensive. Sorry. Yeah, they're just like, I thought that would have been $1,500, and it's so cost effective for churches. And also on websites, man. We do websites made for Google, hosted on Google, maintained with all of Google's changes for their algorithms. We do websites one time very cost effectively for churches as well. I mean, one of the recent ones that we've started that we're working on, I think they're paying less than half of what we would normally charge. Less than half. So these sites that we would do for a nationwide company, some companies that are $30 million companies, $80 million. We did one for $80 million company. You know what I mean? You get the same quality of a website that we would do for that company for less than half of something So when people see the cost and all the value and everything you get, and then the ongoing education, it's a game changer. But I will also tell you this, another thing that has emerged from this that has kind of surprised me a little bit. So working all over the world with the underground church and figuring out difficult things, you start to see that different pastors have different callings, to where some pastors are called to reach certain types of demographics or whatnot. So then it turns into this natural and organic relationship where pastors they call you up and they'll be like, hey, look this up for me real quick, so we'll look it up, and then they'll be like, man, I really want to do this.
Yeah.
It could be anything. Maybe they want to do something online, maybe they want to do something as simple as like a podcast. There's so many different things like that this develops into, that we just offer all of this knowledge and information and help pastors problem solve on different things that they want to accomplish for free.
I love it. Here's another quick question. It says, in regards to ads for Facebook, IG, what advice regarding how often to run ads and how long? Seen it backfire with several churches with advertising too much.
100%, especially if you are in a small town, people are going to get annoyed because, like here in Tulsa, I think you could reach 1 million people for about $750 over the course of 3 months if the algorithm hits and people start responding and engaging with it. That answer depends upon where you're at, what the population is, what is the ad that you're running. Now, if you are reaching an extended demographic to where it's, people are willing to drive 15 or 20 miles because you are, in a rural area, at that point, I would really just drop something that would be really, really helpful for people. And if you do that, I think you could run that out a little bit longer because it should grow. And I'm talking about just like life-giving messages, hope, quick 20, 30-second deals.
Yeah.
But if you're trying to get sold on something and you're running too many ads, man, that answer is not just like a, hey, 1 week with this budget. It 100% depends upon what the content is, where the demographic is, and how many people are in that area.
That's great. That's a great answer. Let's see. So we talked about simple things online. Talked about why don't you talk about a little bit more the importance of reviews? I think most people, if I'm honest, I knew you needed them, but I didn't realize how important and how effective they can help, not just let people know that your people coming to your church like your church, but also in being found online.
So reviews are really important for multiple reasons. One is, like, let's say we get companies all the time like, man, we need to be at the top of, we'll find out that their competitors are getting X amount of traffic off of 10 or 15 different major keywords for them, right? So then we get that company to the top of the page. But then, maybe when they're pulling up, maybe they have terrible reviews, on Google Maps, especially if you're church, people are going to be looking you up, seeing where you're at, but then they're also going to see the reviews. Now, if you go below, I think it's these numbers change every now and then, but if you go below like a 4.2, like, it cooks you on so many different levels. One, wow. I think 90% of people, if you go below a 4.2, are just going to be out on you. The other thing is if you go below a 4.2, you start falling off of different type of business listings, which are crucial for search. So if you're like, hey Siri, help me find a good church in my area, you're going to fall off this. You're going to fall off Amazon Alexa. A lot of those voice searches, you're going to stop falling off of those voice searches because you're below a 4.2. It's going to diminish your traffic. I'll tell you this. We do a pretty strong review strategy. I got to be careful. There's one company, fastest growing company in its industry right now that we work with here in Oklahoma, in the state. Fastest growing company in its industry in the state. We helped them get 400 Google reviews in 6 months.
Wow.
400 Google reviews in 6 months. So if you're a church, pretty much any type of church, we get in with you, I think we could at least jumpstart 100 Google reviews. We got to spread them out a little bit, but we should be able to get 100 Google reviews within the first couple months. It's good. It's good to not go over 100 in a couple months. Otherwise, we've had people get 1,000 reviews in way too short of a time because everyone got on board. Yeah. And to this day, only 675 of those reviews actually show up. Google reviews are a huge deal. Recommendations. I'll tell you right now, for a church, recommendations are a huge deal. Recommendations, that's an advocacy And that's going to come in the social realm. Hey, looking for a great church, right? People are going to start talking about that. Well, that's going to blow up on Facebook. People are going to start talking about it. And people are going to start tagging different churches, and then your church is going to pop up. And then people are going to go to those recommendation pages. And man, that's for us. Sometimes we'll focus on Google, sometimes we'll focus on Facebook. It depends on what that need is. But that's a huge deal. Google reviews and Facebook recommendations.
Yeah, which I think that's going back is for those watching, it is a lot, and that's why I love what Harold's doing, even from a executive pastor role, being part of a church, and knowing all this and going, man, I don't know how to do all this. I don't know how I'm going to find the people, the time. I don't know if I have the budget, and that's even the education part, the resourcing part, like. Even for me personally with Harold, I wouldn't know or have done a lot of the things I had done if it wasn't for him. If it wasn't for, even, on social media and the emails and the blogs and, being aware of these things. It's just, it's crazy. And I can't, I think that as we, continue to help churches and educate them and people get on board, I think it's going to be a pretty cool deal. So I was trying to think, what did we talk about last time? I was in Walgreens and we were getting fired up again. And I
called you?
I was trying to think.
Okay. So here's the thing for me. Like I feel like I'm a little bit ruined from working internationally, right? Like I worked in the Middle East, I worked in Asia. It's about as specific I can get. And I'll tell you this, I got to work with 3 different movements of millions, one out of Europe and the other 2 out of Asia. And man, these guys would just connect people to God, teach them how to hear from heaven, and then teach them how to live out the gospel in their daily lives. And so that's why I'm so passionate about this. That's why I started learning everything online all those years ago. I'm 35 now. I got to do that when I was in my early 20s. And the truth is if you just start getting the gospel out there and start helping people get connected. I mean, people are virtual more than ever before right now. If you start teaching people how to worship God in the mornings, and how to hear from heaven on a daily basis, how to drive prayer deep into your fears, praying in the Holy Spirit, just covering everything in prayer. If you start teaching people how to live out the gospel in their daily life, that's how movements start, So I'm one of those. I'm old school too. I'm at the same time, I believe in, who's gonna lay hands on the sick.
Yeah.
And so there's still that, who's going to impart spiritual gifts, through the laying on of hands. So I 100% agree that we still have to do that. But even for me, like I've got a thing running right now. I want to reach 10 million people with the gospel. And man, I'm doing it while I sleep right now. So if we really want to store up treasure in heaven, if we really want to change the world, I mean, we all should be online. People are online right now more than ever before. And we can hijack people out of being in the shadow of death and darkness and transitioning them into life and light right now. And that comes, we got to be vocal. We got to be vocal. And I'm telling you right now, if you're a pastor for $1 a day, why would you not reach, even if it's not your city? Why would you not be reaching people? If God has gifted you and anointed you, as an evangelist, and as an apostle, like right now is the time. Everybody's looking for hope. It's the darkest it's ever been. America personally is losing morality right now. You hear the way that people communicate, the things that go out of their mouth, the hatred and the bitterness that's going on right now. Like now is the time, for as little as $1 a day, we could be reaching people with the gospel.
Man, it's crazy because it when you put it like that, like even that's what I just wrote down is like, through that you really can, like you can reach people while you're sleeping, when it's not Sunday, when it's not a service, it's not and excuse me, and honestly, like I think it's even easier with churches when you can focus on a certain area demographic, and even you're in more rural towns, you probably have less competition per se. This is not, this isn't a competition, as churches, but you're going to have less things to battle against to get at the top, to get found, for people to find you. But it's crazy what you can, what you can do with, just some simple, and even, I mean, I would say running Facebook ads and stuff yourself, if you needed to, it's not that hard to set up, and you can do the simple things like, like just targeting certain areas around your church, or like, for instance, I just used batch geo to and put all our church people to see where everybody's at, like where are people coming from, because I want to know where people are driving from. I want to know, the communities, and then even from there, like, you can target a certain area and reach more people, and utilize the people that are already in your church to spread the gospel and find out about the church and build community. And I think it's crazy. I'm excited. I'm excited to see as churches start, as we see more churches jump on, see what happens, and see the feedback, and especially as hopefully more churches are opening up across the U.S. I know there's a lot of states that are still having to go online, but again, I think it's been a pretty crappy year, but I think God has set it up to make us realize how effective the tools that we have. I think both online, social media can be a destructive tool, but I think where there's darkness,
it's an amplifier. Social media and the algorithms work like this. It's an amplifier, good or bad. Now, of course, there's censoring, and we know all that stuff's going on right now. But it's an amplifier. So if you can get people to engage, and people start responding, it's going to. And even for me, man, I don't really get political online because I don't want to mess with. I have clients. First of all, I've got so many clients, and accounts and different things like that. But for me, I don't want to mess the ability just to keep reaching people. It's still an avenue. There is one other thing though. I mean, I'm a big proponent that if we can put 100,000 people in a football stadium, then we could put 25,000 people in a stadium for Jesus. Now, of course, I know there's stuff going on right now. It's an unprecedented time, but so I'm big on church being live and real and being able to,
for sure.
In the season, but at the same time, something you just said, you start to also find out who responds to you and who doesn't respond to you. And that's a really big deal, because you can take a pixel, you put it on your website, and then what ends up happening is you can really start to look at the data and analytics of who's responding to you. I have stuff going right now, just doing a gospel, preaching the gospel message, reaching into a lot of English speaking areas, Australia, Singapore, Taiwan. I read and speak Mandarin, so of course I have a game plan there. But the thing is after so many different types of people respond to you, then you just go and you create a lookalike audience, and you start reaching people that are going to respond to your message. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So in your town, it's great to drop a generic ad inviting people to your church with the ability to plan, the first time they come and have somebody meet them. But the thing is you can also start to see who in your area and your demographic, who responds to you and who doesn't. And that's what I was saying. You'll start to make decisions differently based off of that data. It's like you're getting to sit down with the people who had some bad experience with the Christian and refused to let their light shine because they didn't like the way somebody else let their light shine. Somebody's got to be experts at going and getting those people back in. And it's not going to, a lot of times it's not going to come. You're going to have to interrupt them. You're going to have to go to the highways online and compel them in.
Yeah. No, that's good. And I just want to say this as we kind of wrap up. If you want to find out more, if you get more questions, you want to, find out how Harold can help, educate, or how it can help your church with your websites, your social media, even digital ads, SEO, reputation management, all that stuff. If you want to find out more, I want to encourage you, man, email him. It's in the comments below. And he would love to help you, help educate you, even start you on this process. Even with the market report, I'm telling you, is insane, and it will blow your mind. And I'll say this is that you may think you're doing well, okay, your social media is consistent, your website looks good. Looks good is good, but it's not everything. But I'm telling you, when you see this market report, it will blow your mind. And because it looks at so much stuff, and it's free. And so I want to encourage you guys to do that. Check that out, because that's really what Harold does, and that's why he's such a good friend, and why I love him is we just want to help churches reach more people, to get more people in the doors, in community, in relationship, being discipled. And that's because that's what it's about. And that's what we're here to do. And so
you should also tell them about the dashboard, where every single month all your social channels will organize everything. Social channels, Google, all your ads, one place. We'll organize it in 3 categories. It's real simple. It's how many people you reach on a monthly basis, all organized in one place. How many people actually engage and respond. And then the last thing, of course, the most important, and that is a lot of times we set it up to where for a church, it's just like directions, directions and, website traffic, and then all of that converting to either directions, planning a visit, or calling in, because sometimes people have questions about your church.
Yep, that's great. Hey, I like to do this at the end of every show. Why don't you leave us with some encouragement? It could be something personal. It could be something leadership wise. I like to let people just kind of share what's on their heart to the leaders and pastors watching, and something to leave them maybe encouraged, inspired with, because I think in today's climate we need to. I always want to be a person in an organization that is encouraging and supporting. So why don't you kind of leave us with something as we wrap up?
Yeah, I have 2 things. One, right now, if you've come to a dead end, that you call upon the Lord, and we have faith, and God takes dead ends and he turns it into an intersection, with opportunities. And so, right now, if you're feeling a little bit defeated, if you feel like you're kind of trapped, kind of run out of ideas, I'm telling you, there are more ideas and more opportunities and more alternatives to whatever it is that you're looking at. And I've seen that so many different times working all over the world. Second thing is, man, I'll tell you this, like, the movements that I've seen, the incredible movements, are normally not the people that you'd pick out in a lineup, So like, if you are a guy right now, if you're a leader where you're like, man, I'm not the best looking guy, I'm not the best communicator. The truth is it's always about whoever's the most faithful with the gospel. And it's always about who is willing to connect as many people as they can with their life to God. And as soon as we make a decision to do that, that's seeking first the kingdom, man, God gets up behind us and he starts making things happen and opening up doors that no man can shut. And so I just want to remind everyone, pastors have all these conversations with other pastors about what's working and what's not working. But the truth of the matter is the guys that are just, man, calling upon the name of the Lord on a daily basis, on their face before God, seeking God on a daily basis, and trying to connect people to the gospel, incredible, miraculous things always come to those people.
That's good. No, that's good. Well, I want to say thank you for being on. We're going to do it again. We got some more stuff we're going to be rolling out, working on as we come to the end and the first of 2021. And make sure that if you have any questions, let us know how we can help you in whatever way, whether it's just some answers, some questions, or if you'd like to jump on board. Next week, we've got some great guests coming up on Church Conversations. Last week we had my friend Jeremy Baker, and man, it was a great show, as he talked about how to lead big when you're not the main leader. And so if you haven't watched that one, I really encourage you to go back to last week's, because we've had some great church conversations. But other than that, have an amazing week, amazing Tuesday, Giving Tuesday. Man, go be generous. Go be generous to your church or an organization. Let's be the church. Let's love people. I want to say thank you to Harold for hanging out, and we will see everybody next Tuesday for another Church Conversations. As always, love you guys, and we'll see you next week. Peace.